Hi everyone, I'm Kyle Jones from FUTUREcompounds. I now have your questions from the Advent calendar. I appreciate it. Really good questions. We're going to have some fun. We're going to answer all these questions. I really appreciate the Japanese culture. We're going to get into some cannabinoids, some science, and thank you to everyone that helped put this together, like Yuki and Roger and everyone else at Rising Sun. Let's have some fun, and nice to meet everybody.
Okay. So the first question is from Oka. Says, I have a question for Kyle-san. In the case that THC becomes illegal in Japan, do you have the necessary equipments and facilities to enter that market?
Oka, great question. Yes. So here in the United States, we've been in the cannabis space for nearly a decade through state regulation, now semi-federal regulation. So when it comes to the equipment and extraction and refinement, there is a multitude of devices that we now have pretty dialed in and precise when it comes to things like extraction, refinement, finished goods manufacturing. All of those things are really dialed in and pretty scaled as well. So going into really any matured market that's ready to become mature, the equipment is there, the knowledge is there, and there are a lot of really skilled technicians and individuals for that. So if THC becomes legal in Japan, it would be amazing, and I'd love to come over there. We can have some fun.
So you not only have the equipment, but also the talent to do so, right?
Correct, yes. And I'm on the board of directors for the Cannabis Research Division. So we have some of the best chemists, we have some of the best technicians, and we're constantly innovating and creating new equipment to make these processes more efficient as well. So equipment and skill is just at an all-time high right now. Yep. Thank you, Oka. That was a great question. I appreciate your time.
So this next question is by an anonymous person. And the question is, why did you decide to start Future 420? We see even on Japanese forums, various Japanese forums, that things can sometimes get out of hand. But how do you deal with trouble on your forums?
Excellent question. Thank you for asking that. So with Future 4200, the start of it actually was from when we first got into the industry. It was very difficult to get information. It was not out there, right? There weren't educational courses, there weren't universities hosting anything. The only way to really learn was to find someone who knew what they were doing already or who had perfected a niche per se, and then either convince them to teach you or pay them to teach you. And a lot of the time they just wouldn't, or they would kind of be maybe sketchy characters in the middle of the woods growing, cannabis. So the need for education and clear, concise info was kind of not existent. So that's what the forum was. It was a way to essentially provide education and informational documentation on things that just hadn't been spoken about yet, like extraction, safety procedures, things like that. So the forum really originated out of my business partner, Dustin, and I doing pesticide remediation throughout the nation. So as if you're not aware, most of extraction can have, just like all kinds of cultivation, can have all kinds of things like pesticides and heavy metals, things that we don't want to consume. So that was one of our goals and initiatives, was to really dial in pesticide remediation to help people make clean products. So going through that journey, we had that same struggle of not being able to get the information, having to find chemists around the world that would help, creating standard operating procedures. We started doing those consultations throughout the United States. We ended up getting so busy with those consultations that we just decided to say, well, let's put those standard operating procedures out there for people for free, open source. So then that way, instead of trying to hold that and be greedy about it, we wanted to share that info, hoping that people would just make their products safer rather than needing to pay us to make things safer. So the forum came out of a good place, which was to just help people get information to either make more efficient, safer processes and products. So that's where the forum started. Then,
kind of
whether- yeah.
sorry, what kind of the percentage of people like wanted to hide the, or they don't want to say anything, tell any process. They just want to hold on to themselves,
Like 99%. A lot of people in cannabis.
Of course.
Yes. A lot of people in cannabis think that what they're doing is intellectual property, right? When it comes to either chemistry or extraction or even just standard processes like formulation, a lot of cannabis people think that it's their intellectual property and they're reinventing the wheel. But if you really take a step back and you look at refinement of oil like gasoline or, extraction of wheat and grain for alcohol or just chemistry in general, these are all processes that have been done for decades, centuries. And if you look back to old medicine, extraction has been around for centuries, thousands of years. So it's very interesting, the idea that there's a lot of intellectual property when in reality there's a lot of just general chemistry and science that's going on, and we should share that. If you have intellectual property, we respect that. But if you're just doing simple extraction like hydrocarbon or ethanol extraction, I would rather share an SOP that's going to keep you safe rather than let my ego act like it's something special.
I mean, people even have to share the information even if they have patent, So.
Right. Well, and here in the United States, you actually can't federally patent anything cannabis related. So it's just that faux pas there, right? Yes, very, very fun and interesting times. And I will say one last part to that intellectual property process is people thought we were crazy by giving up this information for free. They thought we were trying to ruin their consulting, or they didn't see the greater purpose of trying to help, and even started saying like, you guys are going to lose your own business by just giving everything out for free. We really didn't care about that at the moment. We're just trying to help people. And surprisingly, doing the good thing actually yielded good results. People started to trust us as an authority in the space because they could tell that it wasn't from a place of greed, it was from a place of intellect, and people respect that. So the people that we actually wanted to work with started to contact us based on a level of respect and integrity that the other people just would not provide. So it ended up being good provided good, and we're happy with that turnout.
How many people access to the forum every day approximately?
Daily, it varies. Monthly, it's 2 to 2.1 million a month.
Wow.
It's a lot. Yeah.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
And then how long ago did you start that?
Oh, I don't remember exactly. I want to say 2016 or 17, late 2010s. Yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty cool. If you go to, even here in the States, if you go to any cannabis laboratory or cultivation, specifically laboratories, and just say the word Future 4200, either every technician that's there or the managers or assistant managers are either going to give you a couple responses. It's going to be, that's where I completely learned the majority of what I needed to learn to get this job, or I'm still currently on there learning new techniques that are helping me get a greater position at my job, or the manager themselves is saying, this is where I'm constantly staying up to date to make sure my team is educated. So no matter where you travel in the United States and internationally, it is still an amazing source for information. Now, I'll segue that into the second phase of this question, which is the trouble and the bad part about a forum. Now, the blunt truth is all forums have that good and bad. If you look at Reddit is the perfect example. There is really bad information on Reddit and there is really great information on Reddit. That normally will come down to the user. So if you can kind of read through a thread, let's say a thread is just a standard topic. Let's say CBN creation, CBN or CBD extraction. Let's take that thread. You can kind of go through there, and while you're just skimming the comments, look for the person that looks like they're educated, they have like decent grammar, and just kind of whittle through the general concepts of, does this person seem like a good person to listen to? Then check the comments and replies to see, like, is there professional engagement there, or are they just kind of battering each other? It's the same as when you dig through social media, or you are on YouTube, or you're picking an influencer or someone to listen to in life. The forum is no different. It is an open source where people can be good and people can be bad, and it's really up to you to discern that. So it does get difficult at times. How we manage that is to keep it non-biased. We decided to get moderators, and those moderators, just like Reddit, they are people that the actual forum picked. We don't pick those people. The moderators are picked by the members of the forum. So it's a relatively, I would say, grounding scenario where something was created, meant to give information. The people that engage the most are obviously going to be the people that are voting to pick the moderators. The people that are engaging the most are going to be the most informed on who is actually in the forum for the good reason. And then hopefully those choices are right and the moderator does a good job at deciding if someone is going too far. We definitely don't deal with any violence or, cussing. There's levels that we just will not allow. That's when we will step in just for the safety. But other than that, we do like people to speak freely as long as they're not hurting each other. Yeah.
Incredible.
Thank you.
Wow. That 2 million, huh? That is wild.
And growing. Yes, and growing.
Of course.
Yeah, and thank you for the question. I really appreciate that. It's a great question. We love the forum, and hopefully you can find some really good, valuable stuff from the forum. So thank you for that question.
All right. Next question is by Ruby. They say, I want to mix CBN with bath salts, and I'm interested in how CBN is absorbed transdermally and how effective it is. And I know Migoto has high quality ingredients, so I'm really eager to try it out. So any feedback on that?
Absolutely. Thank you, Ruby. That's a great question as well. When we start to talk about transdermal absorption, it gets very, very tricky. Anyone in the biochem world or anyone really evolved in biology will know that anything transdermal is very tricky. It comes down to the carrier. How well does it penetrate? Does it penetrate locally? Does it penetrate deeper and get into your bloodstream? The good thing about bath salts is they do a very good job at opening the pores to actually get into your body. Another very good thing about just transdermal and cannabinoids is we actually do have CB receptors throughout our skin, as well as, synapses and connections in our brain. So it's kind of amazing that our body was designed, it looks like our body was designed to intake cannabinoids orally, inhalation, topically. So that is the good note, is that our body is built to take cannabinoids. The tricky part with transdermal is exactly your question. So when it comes to how effective it is, it can be extremely effective if done properly. I honestly couldn't give you a perfect answer on what is the proper method, but I will say that a bath salt and hot water is a very good method for any really transdermal absorption, just because of the heat, the salt. That's why things like Epsom salt baths are really good at losing weight, right? It's opening your pores. It's allowing moisture to be removed. That means that moisture is also being pulled in, right? That's what the salt is doing. It's stripping. So anything that's going to open your pores should hopefully help the absorption of anything. So yeah, it's a great technique. I would say that there are probably people much more educated on the actual faculties of what is occurring during a salt bath than myself. So a good technique here would be to just maybe look up on any kind of platform what are the most efficient techniques for using bath salts, and then integrate CBN into that technique. The only caveat is CBN is a very sticky compound. you'll notice that when you start to do things like water solubilization, CBN seems to be very tacky. So on a molecular level. So when you get into CBN and transdermal, that is then another kind of layer to it. That CBN is relatively more stickier than the other cannabinoids. But yeah, it's definitely research that needs to be concluded, and there is good application for it. And I would say bath salts is a great, easy way to just do that on your own, 100%. And thank you for the question. That was a great question.
So the next question is by yours truly. Yeah. So do you want your children, would you like your children to have the same job as you, or work in the same industry, work in the cannabis industry with you in the future?
The best parent answer would be, I would want my children to do whatever they were passionate about. So that would be first. If my children happen to become passionate in this industry, then of course, I have no moral qualms with this industry as long as it's done efficaciously. I know we're kind of mixing cannabis and parenting, but I think parenting is a lot like business. If you operate with good intentions, whether it's with your children or with your business, then normally it does good and people will care and you care about each other. So I hopefully can instill that in my children and would like to see them, if they go into this business, they would do it with integrity. I will say one thing about this question is I have noticed that in this industry, if you just do good business, there are so many people who don't, that you'll probably just succeed based on that notion alone. So yeah, if my children wanted to get into this industry, morally, I would feel absolutely okay with it. And hey, I would be able to help them with a lot of that navigation as well. So yes, my answer is yes. And thank you, Pan. Thank you, Pan. Great question. Yeah.
No problem.
Are they really interested in what are you doing every day?
I think they both just want to be like daddy. So at the moment,
oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So Aoi Era asks, good morning, Kyle-san. I'm someone who's been saved by the existence of cannabinoids, and I'm now living comfortably thanks to them. My question for you is, CBD, CBG, and CBN vape liquid has been evolving quite rapidly here in Japan, and a lot of them are very high quality and taste really good. What do you think of the vape liquid designers and manufacturers who are working on these despite the fact that THC is illegal here in Japan? I'm extremely grateful for these people, and I think they really help raise the power of cannabinoids. And actually, this is less of a question and really just more of a request for you to send some love. But yes.
Thank you. That was a great question. And yeah, let's go through all of them. So in the sense of cannabinoids helping, that's amazing. It's the reason why we get up every day. Over the course of the last 7, 8, 10 years, we've had so many people that cannabinoids have changed their life, including myself and many people that are close to me. So firstly, I just want to say thank you for sharing, because that's the whole reason we're all here, right? Is to try and make something better that can help us and that we all believe should be able to be shared. And yeah, so thank you for sharing that. It means a lot to us. So thank you. On the question about the vape, yeah, there are some really amazing vape formulations that are coming out now. Originally for us, it was really tricky because these are all naturally crystalline structures. So the CBD, CBG, CBN. So originally we saw really bad vape formulations that were diluted with bad stuff. But luckily now there are more amazing refined compounds like CBC, CBT, CBL, and those compounds really provide the ability to put crystalline structures like CBD, CBG, and CBN with something like a more liquidy CBC and CBT, which creates a crash-resistant distillate or vape. And those are really high quality. If you think about all 3 to 5 of those compounds, they are all really good, really isolated, amazing compounds. CBC, amazing. CBT, CBG, CBN, and CBD, those are just some of the staples in medicine, at least from our photocannabinoid perspective. So yeah, super kudos to all of the designers that are making formulations with those compounds. That's excellent. It's here in the States as well, with everything that we're doing, those are some of the best formulations that we have. So if you guys have those there, that's awesome. That's as good as it gets, at least for now. So that's really cool. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that THC should be legal, and you guys should be able to consume it from a safe, regulated perspective. As long as it's safe, it's helping so many people. That's been documented clinically so many times. I think as long as we all just kind of stick together and fight the good fight, then things can naturally progress to a legal state. But we have to stick together on those things and try and do it in the right way. So it'd be really amazing. You guys, I already see what you guys are doing in Japan, and it's awesome. You guys are really a culture and a community and really fighting for what you believe in is right. That's what we did here in the States. And it took some years, 5-10 years. We're still battling it, but we now have come together so strong that we can at least consume safely. And I hope to see that for you guys, and you will get that if you just keep fighting together. So yeah, it's amazing to see that. So and yes, thank you. I hear you're grateful for those people. I'm grateful for them too. I'm grateful for you. And thank you for the love. I appreciate the love, and I want to send it back. I'm excited to possibly get down there and meet everyone too. So thank you. So thank you. Okay, here we go. Ready? Okay. Aoi-era. 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 Okay. And thank you so much for that question. Aoi-era.
Yes, you said the name. You said the name. Let's go.
I know it was probably super robotic, but okay.
No. It's the right way to do it.
Aoi-era? Okay.
Yeah.
And thank you so much.
There you go.
Okay. And thank you so much for that question, Aoi-era. And thank you so much for that question, Aoi-era.
Nice.
Okay. I think that's as good as my tongue will let me get.
It's good. It's good.
Okay, thank you. I'm proud of myself. I am. That's Japanese is difficult. Yeah, Japanese is difficult. I'm excited. I read like a book a week at least. I'm gonna start trying to learn Japanese. That's awesome.
There you go.
Yeah.
Next question is from Aiko, actually.
Who's that?
Who's that?
Who's that troublemaker?
I
know
guess
that
I can
person.
ask. Okay.
Oh, you do?
Mm.
Okay. So from Aiko, what do you think of the Japanese CBD market? Would you say it's surprising? Would you say it's promising? Do you think it'll lean in the direction of health and wellness? Or do you think it'll become something more underground?
Great question, and thank you, Aiko. You know I love you so much. I will give a biased opinion, which I don't like to give, but I feel strongly about this. I've been working with Aiko and other people from Japan, and also have been doing research about Japan, and all I keep seeing is just beautiful people, integrity all over the place, and just a level of care that we don't really see much here in the States. It's actually making me emotional just to think about how many good people there just might be in Japan that we might not get to see here. So what is my opinion of Japan and any market? I think it will do good, because I think there are good people that care in the space. And as I've stated already in previous questions, wherever there are good people fighting for a purpose, it'll succeed. And that's just the truth. In every battle, Japan has some of the longest recorded history of battling through hardship and succeeding as a community. This would be no different. You look at something like the United States, which is only 300 years old, and you look at the history of Japan, it's very clear that Japan has a history of battling and winning together when things are hard. So this industry is definitely not as hard as what you guys have faced before. So how do I see the industry in Japan? Extremely promising. It's not surprising at all. You guys have always been focused on health and wellness. You guys focus on education and care about what goes in your body. It's amazing. I love the concept of what Japanese people do and why they treat their bodies in a certain manner, and also how you guys just treat each other So this industry in a Japanese culture, it should exceed what we've done in the States, because it just seems like there is a level of integrity and quality in Japan that there may not be anywhere else. So I'm excited to see what Japan does, and I hope it sets the standard for possibly the rest of the world, because that's what you guys have just historically done. So really excited, and honor to you guys for consistently battling through hard times and making things better.
So you don't think like what we're having in the CBD industry in Japan are not like similar to what happened in America like five years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, you know, in the CBD industry here?
There are some similarities, and you'll kind of just find that in any dynamic industry where you're like battling regulation. The regulators may not be as in the know as they should be. So yeah, you always do have that sort of underground feeling, and that's just cannabis as it is. If you think about the United States, it may be state legal, but from a federal perspective, it's still a Schedule 1 drug. So here in the States, cannabis is Schedule 1, just as bad as...
Well, maybe not.
They're going to change it. They're trying to change it, but it's still the fact that it's a Schedule 1 drug in the United States, meaning it is federally illegal. And we did what you guys are doing, which is saying we believe it should be legal, and then come together as a state to beat that. But yeah, so there are those similarities where it just takes time to go against, number one, the stigma that it's bad, and then fight through that from a regulatory perspective, and then also get in the processes to make that happen. I would say that Japan, with your guys' ability to be very efficacious and work with integrity, you could take what already has been semi-created in the States, easily adopt that, make it even better and even faster. So the 20 years that we've spent trying to battle this, you guys can battle it faster and better. So are there similarities? Absolutely. And like we said, we talk about this all the time. In every industry, you have just kind of people that are bad at business and shouldn't be in the industry. And CBD is definitely a good explanation of that too. There are definitely a lot of people that just do bad business. So just stay away from those people. And yeah, I think Japan has a really promising future in CBD. And thank you, Aiko. It's a great question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This question is by another person who wishes to remain anonymous. Question is, when did you enter this industry? Have you ever had any trouble with people from the black market? And what has been your scariest experience in this industry so far?
Yeah, amazing question. We have obviously been doing this for 10, 15 years, and I'll make it very clear. So how we traveled and navigated through this industry here in the United States is, as in the last question I stated, it's always been federally illegal, but the states have adopted regulation to try and tax and at least regulate it to some extent. So that's all we did. And that luckily happened when I was young, when I was 18, 19, 20 years old. Colorado had just started to go legal from a medical perspective. So all we did as friends and family was just travel around to the states that had state regulations that at least allowed us to operate in some sort of legal capacity. So that's what we did. We went to Colorado, and then from Colorado, we went to Oregon and California, and just kind of, and of course, Las Vegas, where we are based now. And then while we went through that 5, 6, 7 year period, things just got more and more legalized. So in the sense of all of that, it was definitely interesting. We definitely had facilities that were completely raided by the FBI. And of course, nothing really happened because all our paperwork is there. It was just an interesting time. We can cut that if you want, but it was a very interesting time where there are state regulations that say yes and federal regulations that completely conflict 180 degrees, conflict with that state law. So yes, there's always something interesting that may happen there. And then you always have a lot of people that will abuse the current state regulation. That's when things get really tricky. So here in the States, we have a very, I'd say, relatively mature legal market, but then you have a black market that is always trying to intercept and find ways to kind of get in between each other. It definitely changes the pricing structure of everything too, where the black market may be cheaper, but not as safe and definitely not regulated or taxed. And the legal market is taxed, tons of fees, but extremely safe and clean. So you just always have that consistent battle. I honestly just think it's bad for the industry as a whole, period. Keeping something illegal that people clearly want and we know is relatively safe, just legalize it. And then there's so much less issue. So yeah, over this last 10 years, that's just been my honest opinion. I morally feel good about it. I think it should just be legal at this point, and it would actually stop a lot of, like you said, threats that other people may be encountering just simply because the federal level is not deciding to approve it. So luckily, I'm still alive. Nothing super crazy has happened. And we have been able to navigate. But actually, I'll give you a good answer to the threat side of it, or what's the scariest thing. The scariest thing is in the past 10 years, the thought of me losing everything because the state or Fed has wanted to change a regulation has been imminent for literally the last decade of my life. So none of this journey was anything close to easy. Stressing literally every morning on the way to work for the last decade, is today the day that the state just changes a regulation and I lose my life savings, has been a thought for the last decade. So that is the scariest feeling. Someone could put a gun to me and that would not scare me as much as losing everything, even though I'm doing it right. So that is extremely scary, and it's still scary today. Last year or the year before, we are here in Nevada, and out of nowhere, Nevada decided that the type of chemistry that we were doing just wasn't allowed in the state anymore. And we had to, in one day, decide to change our entire business or lose it. So it's just, that is an example of how scary this industry is from an entrepreneurial perspective. And it is very stressful, but I am here, like you guys are here, to fight the good fight. And I believe that the journey needs to be battled. So yeah, hopefully one day it's just a little bit cleaner and easier for everybody.
When you say you started with Colorado, so what year would that be?
Oh gosh, too long to say.
Long? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, it's probably close to 10 years now. Let's see. Whenever Colorado went medical is when we went. Yeah. So whenever Colorado went medical, and then Colorado continued to press the cannabis subject for the next following years, maybe 3-4 years. Then Oregon and California came on board, and then we kind of spread out up there because those regulations seemed a little bit better. Went and spent about four years or so in Oregon. And then Oregon is actually where I went from. So I started actually in cultivation. I should maybe clarify a little bit. So I started in cultivation, and back then indoor wasn't really like that big a thing. So we did massive, really cool outdoor grows where plants were 30 feet wide and 20 feet tall. They were just behemoth, massive trees that just smelled for miles and miles. They were absolutely beautiful, and really allowed me to respect the plant from a manual perspective, from a labor perspective, from just when you work at that level of size, you have to do things in a certain way just so it doesn't topple on itself, and keep it growing healthy all the way to the tip top. So cultivation was amazing. It was a massive learning lesson. And then come to find out, I'm actually a little bit nerdier than I had thought, and ended up really becoming passionate about the chemistry side and the extraction side of it. And then that's where Oregon really allowed me to do that, because their regulations were a little bit easier to get into the lab space. So Colorado was cultivation, Oregon was originally cultivation, all outdoor and light deprivation, and then moving into extraction and chemistry in the Oregon phase of my career. Then that's where I met Dustin, and we started consulting all over the world, and it kind of just went crazy from there, and that's where we are today. So thank you for the question. I really appreciate it. Great question. Yeah. It's just like, I'm not, I'm being completely honest, where it's like, even just the last 3 years of this business of Future Compounds, 90% of it has been driving to work, just stressed out that is my business going to be taken away from me, even though I'm doing everything by the book. I'm paying taxes. We're paying double the fees because they treat us like criminals at every cent. And I'm only CBD. We're not even THC. So yeah, it really is. As a father, it's a very, very scary situation.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, right. Every day.
I mean, we still have a farm bill. You don't even know, like, farm bill could just be like, oh, it's all pharmaceutical now. Sorry.
Yeah, I could still lose my business tomorrow. Yeah, very scary. Yeah, that's the truth. Scary truth. Yeah.
Yeah, luckily in Japan, it's not by state or by federal. It's just all about, one rule, one laws, So
well, hopefully that one law becomes very good.
Yeah. I know.
Next one. This question is by Ayaka-san.
Ayaka.
Yes. They say, I have a question for Kyle. I want to make an edible product that brings out the most of CBN, but in a safe manner. What do you or any other experts think should be the limit for how much CBN can be included in one cookie? Personally, I think it should be around 350 milligrams for CBN by itself, and just below 250 to 300 milligrams total for CBD, CBG, and CBN when they're combined. And in the latter case, the ratio between CBD, G, and N can be arranged and designed freely to fit the person's needs. But how much is actually appropriate or optimal for CBN? And I do understand that tolerance can change from person to person, but I want to know what the general guidelines are. And normally, products such as gummies are sold in packages of something like 10 milligrams per piece, with a larger total milligram per package. But for this question, I'm specifically asking for the case where you're consuming one cookie or one piece of a snack. Thank you.
Great question, Ayaka. So CBN has been relatively documented, but in a clinical dose, like milligram per serving, there isn't much of that data. I will never give you information if I don't feel comfortable with the actual answer that I'll provide. So when it comes to CBN, there hasn't been, like, for example, CBD, there has been very good clinical data on a specific dose range. Like, let's say anxiety, CBD, and 600 milligrams. There has been very good double-blind clinical trials with that dose per milligram. So we can say comfortably that 600 milligrams of CBD in one serving is not going to hurt you and could be great for X, Y, and Z ailment. When it comes to CBN, there hasn't been many milligram per serving studies. There have been other really good studies about what CBN may or may not be able to do, and we will talk on that. But on the sense of the milligram, I agree in the sense that 10 milligrams is probably not enough. If we consider the fact that most people can consume 2.5 to 50, maybe even 100 milligrams of THC at a time, which I can't consume 100 milligrams of THC, and I don't advise that for anyone. But there are people that can consume large amounts of THC, let's say upwards ladder of 100, okay? Now, if you take CBN and understand that that is far less intoxicating than THC completely. CBN is not anywhere near the intoxication level of THC. So yes, you could absolutely imagine to increase that by a 2, 3, or 5x multiple. So if you're looking at 100 milligrams of THC, a 2, 3, 5x would be, like you say, a 2 to 500 milligram dose. There just isn't clinical data on taking a 500 milligram dose, so I won't advise that. There also isn't any clinical data on taking a 200 milligram dose, so I can't also safely advise that either. When it comes to these kind of things, you actually gave the best advice yourself, which is go on what you feel is best for your body. And like you said, everyone is different. So in a use case, we have identified, at least anecdotally, that CBN works great in conjunction with other compounds like CBD and CBG, or THC as well. And again, it's back to that binding affinity It's back to the receptors that we have. So things just work better together when we talk about cannabinoids. So when it comes to CBN, I would say it's generally better to add them in with other cannabinoids. And yes, 10 milligrams is probably not enough. I would say with confidence that 10 milligrams of CBN is just not enough on its own. But if you're doing that with a much higher ratio of another compound, then maybe. Again, it's very use case specific. And again, you gave the best advice, which is to start a formulation, try it on 50 people, 100 people, get their honest opinions on that. That's what we do with our products. If there isn't clinical data, we will create a formulation based on what we think we know, take the anecdotal data, then push that into a, let's say, second phase, and then test that ratio with multiple people into the tens of people, not 2 people, 50, maybe even 100 people. Do a very good survey. Download SurveyMonkey or any other survey provider and ask some very good questions. How did that dose make you feel? What's your body weight? Did you consume something else? How long did it last? Ask those really important questions. That will help you narrow down that dose, and then you can come to a really good, efficacious answer yourself as well. But to quickly answer the question, I don't have a definitive what is an effective dose of CBN because the clinical data just isn't there. So I won't put something out there that I can't say with confidence. But great question. Thank you, Ayaka. So if you're formulating for yourself or formulating for other people, that's the general guideline, would be the example I gave, which is trying different doses, get some anecdotal data, and kind of just go from there and find what you think works best. That's just always going to be the best advice until clinical data is available for us. But from a consumer's standpoint, if you are just walking into a store and looking at different products with different milligrams, let's say there's a product with 10 milligrams, a product with, we're talking CBN. Let's say there's a product that's just 10 milligrams CBN, 50 milligrams CBN, and 100 milligrams CBN. I would opt towards the latter, which is normally the higher end. And that is simply just because we know that cannabinoids work better when they're together. So, you know, if it's just CBN by itself, 10 milligrams probably isn't going to do it. Just like 10 milligrams of THC for some people isn't going to do it. So if you're looking from a strict consumer perspective in just a single compound, I actually would opt for maybe even a different product like a CBN plus another compound. But if you wanted to stay on just the CBN, then I would say go towards the higher dose. Now, the question, the second part to that though is everybody is different. So you please take that into consideration. 10 milligrams may actually affect me and may not affect you at all. 100 milligrams may barely affect me and I may need hundreds, why it may work perfect for you. So from a consumer's perspective, the easiest approach, if you have the money to do so, is to start low and slow and just go your way up as you try to find what works for you. Then, even when you find a sweet spot, you still may create a tolerance and may need to increase that over time, or possibly even take a break for a week or 2, let your body readjust. So from a consumer perspective, it's unfortunately just a lot of trial and error, as really any medicine is. Your doctor might not tell you that when they give you a pharmaceutical pill, but that's the truth too with pretty much all medicine. It's either quick and meant to fix an ailment fast and be done, or it's long-term and then those tolerances are built. That's almost everything that you can take in the world that will alter anything. Caffeine. If you drink 1 cup of coffee in the morning, that works great for a week. And I bet you in a couple weeks, we'll all be having a cup of coffee at lunch too. It's just how it goes. I would say that cannabinoids and CBN specifically is no different. So just find out what works best for you. And great question. Thank you, Ayaka.
When you say that consumers should increase their dosage little bit by bit, do you think that eventually everyone would be able to feel CBN?
Great question. So yes and no. We did run a very small general study when we first started creating CBN, and we did go into the hundreds of milligrams, and some people just did not feel an effect. as I can clearly state, we didn't have clinical data. We weren't running a clinical trial. So we couldn't really identify what was or wasn't the case with those people. But yeah, some compounds just do not work in certain people's bodies. We are all chemically made differently. Our brains are wired differently, especially our receptors are all different. That's why if you have anxiety or a serotonin depletion, they will try different medications at different doses and different ranges. That's that whole concept. So cannabinoids are no different. It's the same as every other medicine group, where one medicine, maybe one isolated medicine may not work for you, but maybe that same isolated compound combined with another carrier that increases binding affinity may work for your brain specifically. So in the sense that, does everyone feel CBN at some level? No, like definitely not. I mean, anything, not everyone feels everything. Another great example of that is like ADHD and Adderall. If you have a attention deficit disorder and you take Adderall, it will calm you down. You will focus. But if you do not have ADHD and you take Adderall, you will feel like you are on some crazy methamphetamines or 100 million cups of coffee, because those brains are wired differently. Complete 180s in brain chemistry. These compounds are absolutely no different. So you just have to go into that with that open mind. But in most cases, I would say, just my honest opinion, in most cases, increasing the dose, if that gets to a point where you are at 50 or 100 milligrams of pure CBN and you're not feeling it, then add another compound. Add a CBD, add a CBG, add a THC. Then if that doesn't work, maybe increase slightly. And then at some point, if it's not working, then yes, stop consuming something that doesn't work for your brain chemistry. It's totally possible. Great question. Thank you.
Very, very detailed answer. Thank you.
We luckily have a lot of experience in this area, right? So what we do with FUTUREcompounds is we have general formulas that we think will work based on the clinical data, a ton of anecdotal experience, personal testing for years of personal testing. And then we created a general format, just a general format. Let's say a 70-20-10 for our 3 compound formula. 7-to-1 ratio, 70% CBD, 20% CBG, 10% CBN. I think on the old gummies, they were only 10 milligrams of CBN, but that formulation of ratios did work as a whole. Then for some people, they needed that in a multiple of 5 or 10. For some people, they just needed 1, which was a total of 100 milligrams. So it was just, we have a lot of experience in seeing the different ranges in people's doses. My mother is a 40-year RN, registered nurse, now an admin. She's worked around medicine her whole life. She was totally not a cannabis consumer in any sense. Very strategic, by the book woman. As she saw my career progress and saw us getting into university, she was even starting to open to be, just to listen to her son talk about something that she didn't believe in. After talking through scientific structures of, which she respects, then started to create a possible bias that, hey, it may not be everything she thought it was. Over time, then after seeing it really help people, was willing to try a small amount. That small amount for my mother actually did work. Now, there comes in a role of placebo. We do have to be cautious of the placebo effect, right? So at low milligrams, you have to be careful of that. Then just from there, so it's just an example of the case that someone can have a very low tolerance, myself included. I'm very sensitive to compounds. So I may only need 200 milligrams while someone may need 1,000. So yeah, just remember that dose is completely dependent on the person's brain chemistry, the body weight, the metabolism, foods that you ingested literally during that day and time, how much water you drink, how much sleep you got. There are just so many factors. So for us to say 10 milligrams or 300 milligrams, it's just not that concise. And you're right, it is tricky. Most of the people that we have walked through this journey some can take a year, a 2-year journey to really figure out what works for them. Say someone that has seizures, consistent seizures, but we know CBD is great for reducing seizures. We know that there's clinical data, but it can still take a year to figure out what that person needs to completely either get rid of the seizures or at least reduce them to like a manageable amount. But that still took a year. So these are no different. None of this is different. It just takes time, and you just have to believe in the process. Follow the clinical data if it's there. Ah, Yuki, I know that person.
Yeah. So
Hi, Yuki. Yuki's awesome. Pan, I don't know if you know, but me and Yuki, we went to high school together.
Really?
Yeah. She used to throw all the parties, and I would beg her. I'd be like, Yuki, can I please come to your party? And then finally she said, okay, little baby Kyle, come to my parties. And then that's how I got popular. It was because of Yuki's parties. You know.
Of course.
That's how you discover the world.
Yes, I discovered the world from Yuki's parties. Yes.
Gotta mix with the popular kids, of course.
Yes. Yeah. So thank you, Yuki. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
So from the very popular Yuki, what do you like about Japan, and what would you like to do and eat when you come to Japan?
Yay, great question. I already kind of talked about it in an earlier question. I'm seeming to really love everything about Japan. It looks to me like there are just a lot of amazing people with integrity. I see a lot of culture, like we've already talked about. I see a lot of triumph in the sense of working hard through diversity over centuries of time. To me, I just respect that resilience. So Japan, I love culture, I love education, I love integrity, and it seems like those are all things that you guys care about. So of course I love it. I've actually been considering possibly moving there, but yeah, it's possible. So yeah, I'm gonna come travel and come see you guys, and I just am looking for a great place with great people that care about education so I can raise my children in a good environment. And Japan is actually number 1 on that list, so I gotta come see you guys. What would I eat? Well, I love fish. I literally could consume pounds of sashimi. I can just eat raw fish like nothing. So I would probably just have the most fun eating a ton of all kinds of raw fish. And wait, you guys you guys can do the puffer fish there, right? Was it?
Yeah.
Fugu. Blowfish?
Fugu. Yeah. I would like to try that just for the fun risk factor. Yeah.
We have a raw horses, sashimi horse. No cats, no dogs, but yeah.
Yeah. I am a carnivore. I do eat a lot of meat. I do work out and train Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu, so meat is something that has to be in my my diet. So yeah, any meat I would probably be willing to eat, and of course a ton of fish. Yeah, so I'm actually the kind of person that if I would go into another culture, I would just respectfully want to try whatever the culture presented as like valuable or popular or good, and just for the experience itself. So yeah, if I come down there, when I come down there, you guys just force feed me whatever you think is good, and we'll have a fun time.
Stay in Yuki's house. She's gonna cook. Like you gotta have some experience, the homemade Japanese real food.
She already texted me and said that I was not invited to her next party. So I guess I'll just wait at her doorstep and maybe, just bring some flowers and some chocolates.
You're too nerdy. Maybe.
I'm too nerdy, right?
Yeah.
Yuki's too cool. I'm too nerdy for Yuki. Maybe I'll get some tattoos and take my glasses off, and then Yuki will
Gotta glow
I've
up.
seen it.
A glow, yes, exactly. I gotta glow up. That's a good one. Yeah.
I've seen a couple books that are related to Japan at your office every time I go.
Yeah.
I don't remember the titles, but you have shown me before.
Yeah, I've been I've just been reading up on I read a lot. I love reading. I'm not a big advocate of all of these social platforms, even though we own a social forum and our businesses are on social medias. I do really prefer to read. I read every night. And yeah, I've definitely been reading up on Japan. I see a lot of really cool history there. Yeah, I'm not lying to you. I'm being deadly honest when I say that I've already talked to my wife about potentially moving to Japan. And we both are looking into the culture and are like, yeah, I see a lot of cool stuff here and a lot of good people. I had come across a friend who went to Japan, and they were drinkers and ended up passing out on the streets one night. And he said he woke up and literally the amazing Japanese people had like put a blanket on him, had tucked his shoes next to him and made sure he was okay. And I was like, see,
God.
that's the level of care that like you just don't see here. You just don't see. Yeah. Here in America, that person would have been like pickpocketed and stripped naked and had no belongings. Yeah. And
no shoes, nothing.
And then thrown in jail. Yeah, exactly. I am striving at this point in my life to find quality people who care about integrity and education, and just have good conversations with good-hearted people. And it seems like Japan has a lot of that to offer. So yes, I'm excited to get down there and see if it's true and meet a lot of people.
Yeah.
You just reminded me, you said back for the forum that you don't allow cussing or anything like that?
Cussing to an extent, but not like hate speech. Not like directly at someone. Like say you were to directly name call me something, if it was caught, then yes, that would be removed. Like we wouldn't allow people to just cuss at each other in a negative manner.
Right.
Yeah. So more in the sense of like bullying or name calling, we won't have any of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And no libel, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, hey, if you want to get mad and vent and say some cuss words, hey, more power to you. But yeah, but not at anybody. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Aiko, would you like to ask the last question?
Last question. What do you like about your wife? In one word, 100 words, or
yeah. One word definitely would not do it. So I won't do the injustice of giving one word. She is extremely diligent. She is extremely caring. It's very hard to find a life partner that you want to actually be with for the rest of your life. And she has shown me over a decade now. It's been 11 years actually. She has been through so many ups and downs with me.
With you.
Yeah, with me in general. Yes, with myself and our life. She has just always been there. So she's extremely loyal, hardworking. It takes a lot to... I just don't think she would ever quit. Those are things that I truly respect. She has those qualities. She's hardworking. She's trustworthy. She's loyal. And I just don't see a quitting bone in her body. I'll get a little personal. I haven't really put this out there much. We have two sons, 1 5, 1 4. Our youngest son is on the autism spectrum, and that has been extremely challenging as a parent, even just as a human. It's, you have a child and you think, oh, my child's going to be perfect, right? Or at least my child's going to be healthy. And seeing my wife be able to go through and manage not only these emotions, but be able to be there and be so strong for our children, specifically my son with autism. There's nothing that could ever replace the respect that I have for that kind of hard work and diligence. And she empowers me, because there are many days that I question how hard this is to be a parent, and especially in that sense with a condition like that. So she is definitely my rock, and I'm very proud to have her as my wife. Very honored. Yeah. Thank you for the question.
Okay.
Yeah, hopefully she watches this and she's like, my husband does love me and he doesn't have to be in the doghouse anymore. Yeah.
At last, give me the good story. Give me the good story how you guys met.
Oh, I was gonna say I could just tell you how we met.
Good story.
Yeah.
Come on, Kyle.
So I was relatively successful, and I had no problem, finding, women around town. It's like Las Vegas, there's plenty of women. And if you're a successful man, it's like, okay. And I was just at a point where I was like, I'm looking for, just something, really intelligent. And that's hard to find, both in men and women. There's no sexism here. I know us men are horrible, and women can be equally as wild. So I had asked one of my best friends at the time. He is got a full ride scholarship to NYU. He is just one of those friends that when you grow up, you're just like, oh, he's the brilliant friend. He's the one friend that you're just like, he's gonna do it. He's the smartest one I know. Every time we have a conversation, I feel like half a person. So I always trusted his opinions, and I just said, hey man, help me find someone. Like he had a really amazing girlfriend at the time who was also like on the dean's list at college, which is here in the States, being on the dean's list means you're just like at the top of your class. She was a mechanical engineer, a chemical engineer, and he's a mechanical engineer. So we had great conversations. And I just finally asked her, I was like, look, help me find a good girl, please. And she's like, oh, I have a friend, and it was one of her best friends. And interesting, it was actually a blind date. I had never met my wife before. I didn't know her through school or a friend. So we actually met through our best friends as a blind date. And I just knew that first date, I was like, I think she's the one. So
wow.
Yeah, blind date to marriage and 2 kids. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Rest of that is a history, huh?
And then Nick, of course, is my side partner that just, my wife doesn't know about. Right, Nick?
Don't tell anyone about us.
Okay. All right. You can edit that. Fine, Nick. Fine. Don't be
Was it
proud of our
private? We
relationship.
didn't tell anyone.
Okay. Fine. I'll keep working for your honor, Nick, even though you don't.
I'll let you guys alone.
Okay. Perfect. Yes.
Yeah.
Just how we like it.
One thing before the outro, I don't know if we're going to use this, but can you say what your favorite question was?
Yeah. Okay. Let me go through. Oh, well, she asked me about my wife. You're going to get me in trouble here, Pan.
Except the last one.
Excluding that one. Okay.
So I'll ask the question that one. Okay.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, let's see.
So what do you think the best question was aside from the last one?
I have to be honest, as much as I love cannabinoids, which I do, my favorite question was actually from Yuki about what do I like about Japan, because as I already talked about, I'm really excited and I really think I might move to Japan. So personally, that was my favorite question. On the cannabinoid side, I will definitely, I'll definitely answer that as well. Oh gosh, they were all so good. I really liked the one about the forum because the forum has just provided so much for everybody. They were all too good. They're all great. The answer is all of them. I love all of them. Yeah, I actually loved all the questions. I will not say one was better than the other. I actually really liked all the questions. Yeah.
Don't forget Nick when you move to Japan. Like I don't need him, so move, go.
That's right, Nick. You're in the doghouse after this one, man. You're crushing it. That's what Japan needs. Japan needs just someone to prove that this is clean. That's always the best way to. Always the best approach is prove it's clean. What could be next? All we need is to prove things are clean and then get clinical data that it's okay and safe. That's all you need to go to a regulator and say, how can you argue this? It's clean. We can prove that, and it actually works. Here's clinical data. How can you tell me that you can make this illegal? But also gives you a really good arsenal because you know how well Ryan and KCA does when it comes to these things. People in the States love KCA, and the bad actors hate KCA because they can't fake a test with KCA. So it's great. So you just having that resource in Japan, and with Roger being part of it, that's amazing. Roger is going to slay it. Roger's going to do great, and KCA does great. I think that's a powerful team. And then that also provides a powerful resource for you, which then in return is a powerful resource for us. And then we all work together, bring a university in, Pan can moderate, so I don't have to learn Japanese, and we're good. We're set. And
you already said you're learning Japanese, and now you're already backing out of learning Japanese.
Okay, well, if Yuki will finally just accept me, then I'll learn Japanese. Yeah, that's what it is.
You need the motivation.
Yes, I need Yuki's approval. Okay, you're right. It's gonna motivate me. Okay, Yuki will
go.
Me if I learn Japanese. Okay, that's it, Yuki. I'm gonna learn Japanese.
日本語覚えるですって。
あらまあ、私も頑張って英語覚えるわ。
she's gonna try to learn English as well.
Nah, it's not worth your time.
Not
worth it.
時間の無駄ですって。
え
英語は覚えなくてもいいですって。
それは寂しいわ。
Go Japan. Yes, Japan, yes.
Yeah.
Well, that was awesome. Those were really amazing questions. I had way more fun than I probably should have. Please, let's keep doing these so then I don't have to feel like I work every day and we can have fun together. They were great questions. As I mentioned, I think Japan is already so amazing. The people are amazing. You guys are amazing. The culture is amazing. So thank you. I'm honored to be part of any of the progress when it comes to Japan and cannabinoids and cannabis and hemp. So thank you for even allowing me to be part of any of it. So deeply appreciate you guys just allowing me to be part of this. So thank you. I hope everyone has an amazing 420. We know we're going to have fun here. I hope you have fun there. And I'm going to come see you soon. I'm going to come to Japan and maybe we can do this in person. So thank you.
Love it.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
It's probably good that Yuki can't speak English because she doesn't want to know what we're talking about right now. No. Dirty
Yuki
shower
knows.
thoughts with that could be a
No.
TV. Dirty shower thoughts with Pan and Kai.
Oh God.
Girl's head is like, yeah, dirtier, I'm sure. So,
Mhm.
Well,
Cool.
all right. I appreciate it.
Okay, Dirty Thoughts with Pan and Kyle coming next season. Okay.
All right.
All
right.
Have a
Good
good
night.
night. Thank
Actually-
you so much.
It's good morning for you guys, right? Good morning.
Yes. Tomorrow
Yeah.
morning.
Tomorrow morning.
It's 10:30.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
the future.
You guys are actually
Yeah.
in future compounds.
Oh,
Dang.
wow.
Wow.
Oh, you gotta say that. Say
You're
it.
the
Say
real
it.
Your compounds are in the future.
Wow, you are really the future compounds. Yes. Wow. So we are the past compounds. Interesting. Present compounds, future compounds. Okay, I have to change my whole company name now. Thanks, Japan.
Or you have to
Well,
just
I
move to
appreciate
Japan.
you guys.
Just move to Japan.
Yeah, I just got to move to Japan. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.